Good day, dear students. I am your teacher for today's discussion. So before we start, let's have a prayer. So let us bow our heads and place ourselves in the presence of the Lord. Okay? Dear Lord, thank you for this day, another blessing for us to study and learn. Please guide us in our today's discussion. And as you guide us, please help us make it fruitful and interactive learning. We are begging for your mercy to heal the wounded hearts from fighting our silent battles. We pray for the safety of our loved ones and enemies. And as we continue this day, we are always grateful with the overflowing blessings you bestowed upon us. Amen. All right. Good day, dear learners. I am your teacher, Armenia Torres, and welcome to another day of learning. So for today, let us continue exploring the story of anticipation by Mabel Dav Danqua. So smile, listen, and focus, my dear students. So now let me check your attendance first. Say present if I call your name. So Miss De Los Santos,
Present po.
all right. Miss Baracan,
Present, ma'am.
all right. Thank you for attending in our today's session. So reminder, before we start, please turn off your mic to avoid causing distraction. And if you want to answer or if you have any question or clarification, please turn on your mic. So here we go. I prepared an icebreaker, so I hope all of you will be able to participate. And our icebreaker is a jumbled letter. So what are you going to do? So you're going to rearrange the jumbled letters to form a word. Understand, class? Again, so
Yes,
you're
ma'am.
going to rearrange the jumbled letters to form a word. Okay. So for the number one, can you try to guess what word it is? Miss Barakan?
I think the answer is Mabel Davdan Kwa, ma'am.
Yeah, very good. It is Mabel Dav Danqua. For number two, may I hear it from Miss De Los Santos?
Ma'am, the answer is anticipation.
Very good. It is anticipation. So for number three, Miss Barakan?
I'm not sure about this, but is it marriage, ma'am?
All right, very good. It is a marriage. Okay, so for number four, yeah. May I hear it from Miss Del Santos?
I think the answer is Nana Akuda the second po.
I know it's wrong. It is Nana Adoko the second. So, all right. Thank you, Miss De Los Santos. So for number five, may I hear it from Miss Barakan?
Ma'am, wealth po.
Yeah, very good. It is well. So, um, moving forward, here is the objective. Okay, wait for a moment. Um, yeah, wait. All right. So here is the objective. So kindly read it, Miss Barakan.
At the end of this lesson, the student should be able to, number one, identify the author's background information, and number two, understand the story of anticipation.
Okay, thank you, Miss Barakan. So before we proceed to our discussion, what is the lesson and what have you learned in the previous discussion? Miss De Los Santos? Miss De Los Santos, are you there?
Yes, ma'am.
All
It
right.
it we tackled about African literature.
All right, very good. So we tackled about African literature. So what does African literature mean? So may I hear it from Miss Barakan?
Ma'am, African literature is literature from Africa, either oral or written, in African and Afro-Asiatic languages po.
All right, very good. Impressive. So African literature, it includes oral tradition, folk tales, slave narratives, and African novel. So oral tradition involves the telling of stories, advice, and history to the new generations by mouth. So moving forward, let me introduce to you the author of the story entitled Anticipation. But are you guys ready? So I want you to say ready to listen, mom, if I ask you if you are ready to learn. And ready to learn if I ask you ready to listen. Understand, class?
Yes
Yes
po.
po.
Okay, let us try. So ready to learn, class?
Ready to
Ready to
listen,
listen,
ma'am.
ma'am.
All right. You don't I think you don't have energy, huh? Okay. So ready to listen?
Ready to
Ready to
learn.
learn.
Very good. Impressive. So moving forward, here is a mobile Dav Danqua. Okay. So Miss De Los Santos kindly read about the author's background.
Mabel Dove Danqua. She was born the Gold Coast in 1905. She's a journalist, political activist, and creative writer. One of the first women in West Africa to operate in this discipline.
Okay. For next, continue.
Mabel Dove Danqua, the trailblazing feminist, right? Francis Elsben Kofiga of Ghana's literary pioneers.
Okay, so very good. Thank you, Miss De Los Santos. So, about the author Mabel Dav Danqua, she was born on the Gold Coast in 1905, and she was a journalist, political activist, and creative writer who was one of the first woman in West Africa to operate in this discipline. So before the rise of such powerful exponent of literary feminism as Efwa Sutherland and Ama Ata Edu, there was Mabel Dove Danqua, the trailblazing feminist, writes Francis Elsben Kofiga of Ghana's literary pioneers. Alright, next. Okay, so Miss Barakan, kindly read the example of her works.
The example of Mabel Davdanqua's works include The Happenings of the Night in 1931, The Adventures of the Black Girl in Her Search for Mr. Shaw in 1934, Anticipation, The Torn Veil in Payment in 1947, Invisible Scar in 1966, and Evidence of Passion in 1969.
Okay, thank you, Miss Barakan. So here, she published the collection of short stories include The Happenings of the Night in 1931 and The Adventure of the Black Girl in Her Search for Mr. Shaw in 1934 and Anticipation, of course, in 1945, and The Torn Veil in 1947, the Fate Payment in 1947 also, Invisible Scar in 1966, and Evidence of Passion in 1969. So that's all for the author's background information. All right. So before we proceed to our discussion of the story of anticipation, let's have a recitation. So kindly tell me what is the author's background, Miss De Los Santos.
Yes po. Mabel Dove Danqua is an author of the story Anticipation based on your discussion po. She was born in Gold Coast in 1905. She is also known as a journalist, political activist, and a creative writer, and she was the first woman in West Africa to operate in these disciplines.
All right, very good, Miss De Los Santos. Very well said. So how about Miss Barakan? How many works has Danqua published, and can you provide some examples?
Based on what I have read earlier, ma'am, there are eight po, such as The Happenings of the Night, The Adventures of the Black Girl in Her Search for Mr. Shaw, Anticipation, The Thornville, Payment, Invisible Scar, and Evidence of Passion po.
Alright, very good, Miss Barakan. So moving forward, here are the story of anticipation. So I will read the first page and you will continue to read it. Okay. Anticipation by Mabeldag Danqua. So Nana Adako II, o Manhine of Akwasin, was celebrating the 20th anniversary of his accession to the stole of Akwasin. So the capital, Enquabe has thronged with people from the outlying towns and villages. So it was in the height of the kokwa season. Money was circulating freely, and farmers were spreading to their hearts' content. Friends who had not seen one another for a long time were renewing their friendship, and they called with gifts of gin, champagne, or whiskey. And they recalled all days with gusto, and before departing, imbibed most of the drinks they brought as gifts. So no one cared, and everyone was happy. So few could be seen in European attire. Nearly all were in a gold costume. So the men had Tokota sandals on their feet and rich multicolored velvet and gorgeous and hand-woven candy cloths nicely wrapped round their bodies. And the woman with golden earrings dangling, with golden chains and bracelet, looked dignified in their colorful native attire. So next page, kindly read Miss De Los Santos.
The state drums were beating paeans of joy. It was 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and people were walking to the state park where the Odwira was to be staged. Enclosures of palm leaves decorated the ground. The Omanhin arrived in a palanquin under a brightly patterned state umbrella, a golden crown on his head, his canopy studded with tiny golden beads, rows upon rows of golden necklaces piled high on his chest. He wore he wore bracelets of gold from the wrist right up to the elbows. He held in his right hand a decorated elephant tail, which he waved to his enthusiastic, cheering people. In front of him sat his soul, a young boy of 12, holding the sword of office.
Okay, for next page, kindly read Miss Barakan.
After the Oman Hene came the Adonten Hene, the next in importance. He was resplendent in rich green and red velvet cloth. His headband was studded with golden bars. Other chiefs came one after the other under their brightly colored state umbrellas. The procession was long. The crowd raised cheers as each palanquin was lowered, and the drums went on beating, resounding joys of jubilation. The Omanhene took his seat on the dais with his elders. The district commissioner, Captain Hobbs, was near him. Saka, the jester, looked ludicrous in his motley pair of trousers and his cap of monkey skin.
All right, very good. Thank you, Miss Barakan. So for the next page, kindly read Miss De Los Santos.
He made faces at the Omanhene. He leered, did acrobatic stunts. The Omanhene could not laugh. It was against custom for the great chief to be moved to laughter in public. The state park presented a scene of barbaric splendor. Chiefs and their retinue sat on native stools under state umbrellas of diverse colors. The golden linguist staves of office gleamed in the sunlight. The women, like tropical butterflies, looked charming in their multicolored brocaded silk, kente, and velvet, and the oduku headdress, black and shiny, studded with long golden pins and slides. Young men paraded the grounds, their overflowing clothes trailing behind them, their silken plaited headbands glittering in the sun. The drums beat on.
Okay, so for the next page, thank you, Ms. De Los Santos. So I will read it. So the women are going to perform the celebrated Adowa dance. So the decorated calabashes or calabash make rhythm. So the women run a few steps and move slowly, sideways and sway their shoulders. And one dancer looks particularly enchanting in her green, blue, and red square canty. So, moving with the simple, charming grace of wild woodlands creature, the chief is tired and throws a handful of loose cash into the crowd of dancers. She smiles as the coins fall on her and tinkle to the ground, and there is a rush. She makes no sign but keeps on dancing. The Oman Hene turns to his trusted linguist. Who is that beautiful dancer? I am sorry, I don't know her. So I must have her as a wife. Okay, next pages. Okay, please continue to read it, Miss Barakan.
Nana Adako II was 55 and he had already 40 wives. But a new beauty gave him the same new thrill as it did the man who is blessed, or cursed, with only one better half. Desire again burned fiercely in his veins. He was bored with his 40 wives. He usually got so mixed up among them that lately he kept calling them by the wrong names. His new wife cried bitterly when he called her Oda, the name of an old, ugly wife. This dancer is totally different, thought the chief. She will be a joy to the palace. He turned round to the linguist. I will pay £100 for her. She might already be married, Nana. I shall pay the husband any money he demands. The linguist then knew his Omanhene. When he desired a woman, he usually had his way.
Okay, thank you, Miss Barakan. So continue, Miss De Los Santos.
Get £50 from the chief treasurer, find the relatives, give them the money, and when she is in my palace tonight, I shall give her the balance of the £50. Give the linguist stuff to Kojo and begin your investigations now. Nana Adaku II was a fast worker. He was like men all over the world when they are stirred by feminine charm. A shapely leg, the flash of an eye, the quiver of a nostril, the timbre of a voice, and the male species becomes frenzy personified. Many men go through this sort of mania until they reach their dotage. The cynics among them treat women with a little flattery, bland tolerance, and take fine care not to become seriously entangled for life. Women, on the other hand, use quite a lot of common sense. They are not particularly thrilled by the physical charms of a man. If his pockets are heavy and his income sure, he is a good matrimonial risk. But there is evolving a new type of hard-headed modern woman who insists on the perfect lover as well as an income and other necessaries, or stays forever from the unbliss of marriage. By 6 p.m., Nana Adaku II was getting bored with the whole assembly and was very glad to get into his palanquin. The state umbrellas danced, the chiefs sat again in their palanquins, the crowd cheered wildly, the drums beat. Soon the shadows of evening fell, and the enclosures of palm leaves in the state park stood empty and deserted.
Okay, thank you, Miss De Los Santos. I will read it. So the Manini had taken his bath after dusk and changed into a gold and green brocaded cloth. Two male servants stood on either side and fanned him with large ostrich feathers as he reclined on a velvet cushion settee in his private sitting room. So an envelope containing with 50 golden sovereigns was near him. He knew his linguist as a man of tact and diplomacy, and he was sure that night would bring a wife to help him celebrate the anniversary of his accession to the Aquasin stool. He must have those when he woke up. The young woman was kneeling by his feet, and she raised her onto the settle, or the settee rather. So, were you pleased to come? I was pleased to do Nana's bidding. Good girl, what is your name? Effa, my lord and master. Next, continue, Miss Barakan.
It is a beautiful name, and you are a beautiful woman too. Here are 50 gold sovereigns, the balance of the marriage dowry. We will marry privately tonight and do the necessary custom afterward. Nana Adako II is not the first man to use his technique. Civilized, semi civilized, and primitive men all over the world have said the very same thing in nearly the same words. I shall give the money to my mother, said the sensible girl. She is in the corridor. May I? The chief nodded assent. Effa returned. Nana, my mother and other relatives want to thank you for the £100. There is no need, my beauty. And he played with the ivory beads lying so snugly on her bosom.
Thank you, Miss Barakan. Miss De Los Santos, continue to read.
They think you must have noticed some extraordinary charm in me for you to have spent so much money. She smiled shyly at the Oman. But my dear, you are charming. Haven't they eyes?
Continue.
But, Nana, I cannot understand it myself. You cannot, you modest woman. Look at yourself in that long mirror over there. The girl smiled mischievously, went to the mirror, looked at herself. She came back and sat on the settee and leaned her head on his bosom. You are a lovely girl, Efua. He caressed her shiny black hair, so artistically plaited. But, my master, I have always been like this, haven't I? I suppose so, beautiful, but I only saw you today. You only saw me today? Today. Have you forgotten? Forgotten what, my love? You paid £50 and married me 2 years ago.
Okay, thank you, Miss De Los Santos. Okay, so um, for the summary of Anticipation, it is a short story by Mabel Davdan Wagana. This story is about marriage customs in Africa at one time. So a chief is a polygamist and pays a dowry and marries a woman he was already married to for 2 years. And he had so many wives he couldn't keep track of them. Okay, so the story took place in the state park of the village, decorated with palm leaves on the grounds, and the people are cheering and the state's drums were beating paeans, or yeah, of joy. And the second part of the story is in the house of Nana Adako II. All right. So let's have a recitation about the story that you have done read. So what atmosphere is created in the story? Anyone? Any volunteer?
Ma'am, can I answer po?
Okay. Take it away,
So,
Miss Barakan.
to me, it creates an atmosphere of people celebrating and feasting po.
Yes, very good, Miss Barakan. Okay, so it creates an atmosphere of people that it's in celebrating and festing. Okay, so another question: what African custom and traits are revealed in the story?
Ma'am,
Anyone?
can I answer?
Okay, go on, Miss De Los Santos.
African men, I think African men can marry many women as many as they want.
Okay, very good, Miss De Los Santos. So African men can many women as many as they want. Or, yeah, again, African men can marry many women as many as they want. And so, in addition, African men must give a marriage dowry to the woman they want to marry. And also, it includes the renewing friendship for those who had not seen one another for a long time. Okay, another question. Um, Compare the African ways of celebrating with those Filipinos. Any voluntary?
Me po, ma'am.
Okay, go on, Miss Barakan.
Um, I think Africans and Filipinos have similarities when it comes to celebrating special occasions.
All right, very good, Miss Barakan. So African and Filipinos have similarities when it comes to celebrate. When it comes to celebrating special occasion. So we have also costumes depending on the occasions, and we have a parade, our procession, and our occasion before starting the party. Okay, another question. So what is the characteristic of Nana Adako II? Anyone?
Me
Okay,
po.
go on, Miss De Los Santos.
Uh, Based on the story, Nana Adaku is a man who has 40 wives.
Yeah, that's right. So Nana Adako is a man who has 40 wives. And in addition, he also wants to get what he desires immediately, no matter what it takes. Okay, so I think this is the last question. Okay, so what do you think is the attitude of men toward women and vice versa?
Ma'am,
Okay, Miss Barakan.
the attitude of men toward women is that men always give flowery words to women, and women are not that particular with the looks of a man.
Okay, very good, Miss Barakan. So again, I repeat what Miss Barakan said. So the attitude of men and toward women is not that men always give flowering words to women. And excuse me, and the women are not particular with the looks of a man. So the men and are they are like and they are easily to get attracted with beautiful women, while the women are not that particularly with the looks of a man, but instead they are looking for men who are rich. Okay. Um. Again. So here is the last question. Did you expect the story to end the way it did? Anyone?
Ma'am, may I answer?
Okay. Take it away, Miss De Los Santos.
Um, uh, to me, I did not expect the ending of the story because for me, it is somehow impossible not to remember someone, especially if you just married her 2 years ago.
Okay, so very good, Miss De Los Santos. So, very well said. So, um, I'm also did not expect the ending of the story. So, because it is impossible that you forget the someone you married in years ago. Okay, so wait for a moment. Wait for a moment. Okay. So, furthermore, the title of the story, Anticipation, is the manner of anticipating or predicting. The title of the story is all about the decision of the Umanhini of Aquasin and Nana Adako II to marry again a woman whom he thought he saw for the first time. Okay, next, next slide. Okay, so for the characters of the story, kindly read it, Miss Barakan.
The first character is Nana Adako II, which is the Omanhene of Aquasin and was celebrating the 20th anniversary of his accession to the stool of Aquasin. And he is also the man who has 40 wives. Next, we have Efwa, one of the 40 wives of the Omanhene. And we also have the linguist, who is the trusted person of the Omanhene. Second to the last, we have the men of Aquasin. They are wearing Togota sandals on their feet and rich multicolored velvet and gorgeous hand woven. Lastly, we have the women of Aquasin with golden earrings dangling, with golden chains and bracelets as well, looking dignified in their colorful native attire.
Okay, thank you, Miss Barakan. So the characters of the story, Nana Adako II of Aquasin is a great chief of Enkobi, has been labeled as a philanderer due to his 40 marriages. And if one of Nana Adako's 40 wives is shown as a generous and for giving her mother 100 pounds. And Nana Efwa is honest for telling Nana the truth that they are already married. But also, Efwa is practical like the other woman in their culture. And linguist, um, she, he is an obedient and reliable linguist whom Omanhini trusts. And next, the men of Aquasin are wearing Dakota sandals on their feet and rich, multicolored velvet and gorgeous hand wooden. And for women of Aquasin with golden earrings dangling, with golden chains and bracelet, and looking dignified in their colorful native attire rather. Okay, so for the settings, what is the
For this,
settings, Miss De Guzman?
uh, this setting of the story is in the capital of Aquastin, which is Enquabi,
Okay.
while the conflict of the story is man versus society, because the character in the story became the victim of its own society, of its own tradition.
Okay. So very good, Miss De Los Santos. So next point of view. So the point of view is all about the third person point of view. So the narrator is not part of the story. He is in third person limited point of view because he only given us the information about the situation happened in the story and some insight on a certain character thoughts and feelings. Okay, so the theme is that sometimes the things we expect are already there. It's just that we don't know how to appreciate them and only see them when we don't have any other option or when we are bored. So here the quotes that true love cannot be bought, not nor paid. Okay, so for the plot, so the exposition of the story anticipation is that the Omanhini was celebrating the 20th anniversary of his accession to stall of Aquasin, and he then arrived in a palanquin in the park where the Odwena was to be staged. And as the drum beats on the woman performed the Adowa dance, one dancer captured his attention because of its beauty, and he then threw a handful of loose cash into the crowd of dancers. And the particular dancer, mad, no sign, but instead keeps on dancing. Okay, continue to read Miss Barakan.
Rising action. Realizing that he was neglected by the dancer, he turned to his trusted linguist. He told him to get 50 pounds from the cashier and gave it to the dancer's relatives. The linguist then starts his investigation about the women.
Okay, so thank you, Miss Barakan. So for the rising action, so he was realized that he was neglected by the dancer. So he turned his trusted linguist and he told him to get 50 pounds from the cashier and give it into the dancer's relatives. And the linguist then starts his investigation about the woman. Okay, for climax, Miss De Los Santos.
Nana went back to his place. He then fell asleep he had taken a bath. When he woke up, the young woman was kneeling by his feet. There, he gave the remaining 50 gold sovereigns to Ephua to complete the offer of 100. After receiving the amount, the woman gave it to his parents and went back to the Oman.
Okay, thank you, Miss De Los Santos. For following action, okay, they talk casually inside Omanhine's room, and Omanhine appreciated the beauty and charm of Efwa while he was playing the ivory beads lying so snugly on her bosom. And for the Noma, Efwa stands and look in the mirror, and she came back and sit, and then she revealed that they were already married. They are already married for 2 years ago, and that he also paid her for pay 50 pounds before. Okay? For moral lesson, learn to respect and appreciate. At the end of the day, there should be no excuses, explanations, or regrets. So expect nothing, appreciate everything. So the narrative serves as a reminder to everyone that all we have may be taken away if we don't appreciate it. And in the end, regret triumphs. So it was not stated in the narrative that Nana regretted his decision in the end, but we can assume that he did because he assumed that if Efwa was not yet married and put up so much effort to get her without realizing that he had already paid and married her for uh, for 2 years before. Okay, so class, any question clarification?
None so far, ma'am.
Okay, so if there is none, so class, take a few minutes to review the lesson that we discussed today before taking a short quiz. So your quiz will be completed, or you will be done individually using a Google form. So which I will upload to Google Classroom and I give you 15 minutes to complete. Okay? So when the timer runs out, I close the link. Okay? All right? So I assign you to write a reflection paper about this story for your activity. And it should be 800 words long, and you must adhere to the format that I provided. And it will be done using Microsoft Word. Okay? Understand, class? Any clarification? Question?
No, none po.
Okay. Okay, so you will be for your assignment, you will be assigned to write a book review of the story Anticipation with your partner for your assignment. So you have the right to select your partner. Any question, clarification? Understand, class?
None po.
Okay. So that's all for today's discussion. Thank you for attending and stay safe. God bless. Goodbye, class.
Bye,
Fine,
ma'am.
thank you po.
Thank you po.